Welcome to Season 3 of the Strange, Rare, and Peculiar podcast, a place where we explore the past, present, and future of homeopathy from the perspective of a couple of insiders who have been around the homeo block a couple of times.
Homeo block? Good morning. Good evening.
Hello. Hey.
And good afternoon.
Here we go.
Hello. Welcome. It's podcast time, and it means that we're back on the horse.
It's been a minute.
Oh, it's been weeks.
It has.
Yeah, it has actually. In fact, more than.
I think it's been 3 weeks.
At least.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Time's relative. I'll give you that. But
Time is.
No, it is. It's been a goodly amount of time, and lots has gone on. But today's anniversary day.
Today is the 5th anniversary of Homeopathy Help Now. I can't believe it. 5 years.
That means we went into lockdown 5 years ago.
5 years ago. Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Incredible.
It is really incredible. And so I want to start with just a shout out to the unbelievable team that got it started and the many hands that have kept it going and the more than 6,000 clients that have come through our virtual doors since March 20th, 2025. Or 2020. 2020. Yes. Wow. We have learned a lot. We've learned a lot.
What have you learned?
Oh gosh, where to even begin? I mean, I think one of the things that has been sort of an unexpected outcome is that when, homeopathy has been around for 230 years, and in the last 100, it has survived on the backs of individuals in the United States, because I know that there are institutions elsewhere in the world, thank goodness, but in the United States, it has survived on the backs of individuals and very small groups of people, like a school that might be, training, say, 20 people a year or something like that. But one of the things that we have been really lucky with is that we've been able to create sort of infrastructure and institutions. And like HHN as this entity has it has roots now, right? And those roots have created ways for more and more people to get care, but also to for more and more people to be involved sort of in the anchoring of homeopathy in the 21st century. How does that sound? This is not what we expected to talk about.
Well, I had no idea you were going to say that.
Me neither,
what you're
actually.
What you're saying is
Excuse me.
It's a mature institution now.
It is, and a lot of things have come from it. Sorry, I have to interrupt for a second and to say, how long has that tea been brewing?
It's not all about the tea.
Well, it is actually, because bitter tea. And y'all need to know that Al has us set up. We wanted to sit in the sunshine, so we're sitting on the sofa, which, by the way, is not in the sunshine at this moment. I mean, no. If I lean my head really far, I can get it into the sunshine. But he propped the microphone up on a pile of pillows, which means that one or the other of us has to literally hold the big microphone.
I don't know that that's really necessary for our lovely listeners to hear. I think we should perpetuate the mythology
that we're in some studio with
we're in a studio and we're under exquisite high fidelity controlled conditions.
Yeah. Okay, we'll perpetuate that mythology.
We're going to get attacked by the cat at some point.
Any moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, but I love...
And I'm going to start slurping.
Oh, no, you are not. Mm-hmm. Jennifer Gaspari will have none of it. Thank you, Jen. Oh, here goes the spoon. But listen, I think that what I wanted to talk about was just this, not just about HHN, but rather just as one small contributor into sort of the... You use the word perpetuate now, it's on my mind. The perpetuation of homeopathy and, what can we do, right? And so one of the things I was thinking about is just, I hope that the creation of this sort of really robust infrastructure, which sounds so boring, but that the provision of care becomes important. Like, I think about what Jeremy Sher and Camilla Sher and Tina Quirk, like the work that's been done in Tanzania, for example. When they first started, it was like, okay, they have a clinic and they're serving people. And now that they've been doing it for so long, it's like it exists on its own in many ways, right? I don't say that to minimize the hard work that people are constantly doing there, but, they have their interns and they have, the teaching that goes with it. And now they're teaching people in Tanzania to do this work, right? Like when you really get roots going, right? If you have a healthy ecosystem, it will continue to grow.
Yeah.
And that's something that's really important. And I think that, like this is a year of anniversaries for us. It's 5 years of HHN, 10 years of Home Foundation, and 15 years of the school.
10 years of me being in America?
Yeah. How about that?
I know.
How about that? So there's a lot there. And so when I look at what happened, 5 years of HHN, it's not just 5 years of having this telehealth service. It has become like this other thing. And within that, it means that sort of it's growing in this really healthy way. So for example, we started out providing acute care. Okay, that's great. And that meant that we could then... For COVID. And then it was like, oh, wait a second. We can do non-COVID acutes. And then we can provide an internship for the students. And then, we can run all of the chronic care through the systems that were set up, right? The way that we receive the information and collect the money and da-da-da-da. It all kind of made sense. And then all of a sudden, supervision for our chronic students is a part of that, right? And then comfort care comes around. And then with comfort care, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk about, is like, the new, how did I forget already? The new certification program and the... NAHI, North American... Homeopathy examiners, yeah. Right. So if you haven't heard about this, you need to go to the website. You need to look up the North American Homeopathy examiners. This has been a miracle. Carly Hour set out and said she was going to make something happen. If the CHC, the issues, where they removed the requirement of graduating from an accredited school as a point of entry to get certified, it had the potential to dismantle the community. And Carly was like, not on my watch, and provided sort of the backbone to get, a group of doers together to make happen an appropriate exam, the ways to get people in through the systems to marry up to the licensure in Arizona, and then to now have certification. So if you want certification, you don't have to go through the CHC. You can now take the exam, go through, and the graduates from accredited schools now, we've leveled it up. I say we, Carly, you, who else is on that team? Marianne Ivins,
yeah,
right?
Heaps of folks.
Yeah.
Stasia,
that's right. Stasia Steinhagen. So folks have shown up from, all corners of the interested community to really make something happen. It's beautiful.
What's the link though? How did you get there? Because we're having our anniversary. How did you get to that? Because that's the birth of something.
Yeah. Well, because... I don't know. I really did there was a link.
There was.
I forget.
So folks, let me just sum up. Anniversary time, 5 years of HHN. And I tell you what started... See, Denise, if you give Denise any room, any space, if she has an opportunity to relax and stare at the sky, she'll dream up a new business. And that's what's happened, because when she said, the COVID acute telehealth COVID clinic became broader, acute care became, let's run our chronic case. So that's a different business.
Well, not business. It's just
listen to
incarnation.
Me. I want to finish it.
Okay.
Incarnation. Level of complexity. And this extraordinary organization. I mean, what I'm saying is it's a little complimentary. You're not so good at taking that right now, I just noticed, but...
thanks.
You've and you deflected to Carly, which is totally appropriate. But
she's my girl.
what you did was lead a bunch of folks through a catastrophically stressful time to be useful. And
there was no Netflix and chill going on over here.
no. Oh, no. Although I did start to make sourdough, which was pretty good. I remember my sourdough being rockin' and delicious.
I liked that.
Although a little bit glutinous.
All the people that showed up, I mean, it was
Well, not
really...
sourdough, but you know what I'm saying.
It was really quite remarkable, and it became these things. So what I guess where I was going with it, though, was that... Oh, I know. Because what happened was these incarnations, we got to, a couple of years ago, comfort care. And for those of you who you would have heard about our comfort care initiative, which started a few years ago when Caitlin Marino, who we did a podcast with, she reached out. And then because we had set up all of this infrastructure, we then could develop the course, train the folks, and then begin to deliver care, palliative and end-of-life care. And then something else happened. And that was, we realized that there was another category of the provision of care that needed attention. And so if you can imagine, right, this all starts, we've got acute care. And then, of course, we've included, then we have the, people can come to the HHN website and you can opt in for chronic care. So chronic care could be that a client is seen in the teaching clinic, or they are seeing a student in supervision, or someone who has graduated but is not yet certified, or someone who is, a certified practitioner. And then on the other side with comfort care, there were people we had these 3 tiers of care. If you've been following this and you've heard other podcasts, right, we talked about, the final tier is people who are at their last stages of life. And then there is someone who's in sort of a palliative care or hospice care category. But then there is this thing in the middle. And the thing in the middle is really, really important because it's what we're now calling complex care. And we had this big discovery moment, which is not all homeopaths can or should be treating this level of complex care. And I don't say this to be judgy. I say this because I think it's really important that all of us recognize where we are in our practice. So if you're someone who's been a home prescriber taking on a complex case of someone who has cancer or Parkinson's disease or whatever, probably not, it's above your pay grade. The same goes for someone who's a new graduate or whatever. But we've got to bring people along and really recognize the folks who are at those levels of providing care. And so what happened was we realized that we needed to create a PRC, a practitioner review committee. In other words, a way for leaders in the field to kind of help practitioners assess where their skills are appropriate, and then help people along. So if somebody maybe isn't, at the stage in their development where they, should be seeing a case that's really advanced, having mentorship to allow people to grow into that, right? So that we don't get over our skis individually, but rather we've got this, community working together to support practitioners to reach their highest potential. That's what feels really good about all this. So I kind of approach this as like, oh my gosh, we're coming together as a community, not just as an organization. So for example, the PRC that we have is 2 members of the AIH, so 2 medical homeopaths, and the president of the naturopathic homeopaths, right? So these are highly skilled folks who can, help us to determine the appropriateness. And then, of course, providing support for everyone who's seeing complex cases. I love that. That, to me, when I look at what happened in 5 years, that couldn't have happened before because we didn't have all of the pathways, right, built to be able to sort of graduate into or grow into this provision of care.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's amazing.
It feels really giant.
So it's not like just an anniversary of a thing that was born. It's a celebration of the way it's evolved and
I think so. Yeah.
Transformed.
Well, and it's about, like, I love the fact that you were being really nice, because that I was
in
sort
my
of there
best
at the
interests.
beginning. Exactly. I didn't want to say that, but yeah. No, but I just happened to be the person who was there as the midwife, right? But it has nothing to do with me. We all came together to do it, and it was because we had the organization and we already had a 501c3 that we could be the anchors for that, right? And then it wouldn't have worked unless all of these amazing people showed up and stuck around, to make all these things happen. And then it just continues to grow and perpetuate. And so it is with that all in mind, that we are doing something slightly different in terms of the way that we communicate the organizations that we are a part of. And I'm super excited about it, because
This is the birth part?
this is the birth part.
Uh-huh.
And that is, we, as you all know, have, AHE and Home Foundation and, HHN and Comfort Care and all this stuff. But when you try to describe it, it's like, what is all this, right? And
Actually,
so,
can we do a poll?
yeah.
Folks, take 30 seconds of your time, and even if you're listening to this, the 78th podcast, the question is, do you understand what we do?
Because apparently nobody does.
Because we've had some pretty strong feedback that, whatever you guys do, great, keep going.
Yeah, but we
have
don't.
no idea what you do.
Right. So, so we have gotten some guidance from Roddy Schrock, who is one of our stellar students. Will be graduating this year, and he's working with us on development. So for our gala and the events we're doing in June, which you've already heard about. But he said, you need to communicate better what you do. And so over the course of,
what does HOHM Foundation say?
Exactly.
Yeah. I think the Academy of Homeopathy Education.
That's pretty
says
straightforward. Yeah. But HOHM Foundation, which is really,
and Comfort Care, what is that actually?
Yeah. And so we are excited to say that we are now under the umbrella of the Institute for the Advancement of Homeopathy, the IAH. And I have to say that it is modeled after the IHA, the International Hahnemannian Association, established in 1881 by our dear friend Adolphus Lupe, about really, sort of pushing forward what homeopathy really is. And through that, because that's when we can be the most successful, sort of building off of that. So
I like it because it means that when as I did this morning, I was reviewing a paper.
Yeah.
In an academic paper, and it was it doesn't matter what it was. But when I'm doing that work for the research office, I know that I am actually working for the advancement of the future.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's good to have all of our activities under an umbrella.
Yeah.
That's the right color.
I know. I'm
right
super
shape.
excited about it.
Yeah.
It's really, really good. And so, yeah. I don't know. That was the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about.
And so we've got other celebrations coming up, but the thing that I just thought might be of interest and important to articulate is that we've been off air for a couple of weeks, and for a reason. And did you want to talk about comfort care and in more personal terms?
If I can.
And you can say no if you want. If you don't want to.
Yeah, I mean, so as many of you know, and I know you know because I've gotten the most amazing messages and cards and just real acknowledgement. My dad passed 2 weeks ago today, and I was there. Oh, you're right. It is because I was. So I got to be there with him. He was in the hospital. An appendicitis that took a bad turn, and he passed after 10 days in the ICU, and I was there for 8 of them. And I got to be there, up close and personal to the system and the ways that things work and don't work, in a way that when I have provided comfort care or palliative and end-of-life care for clients, I wasn't sitting at the bedside at the ICU for 8 days straight, and it was a real learning experience. And to be at the point of launching a program and then having that happen at the same time, it was intense.
I was really struck by you would come back and just talk about another day at the casino.
Yeah, the ICU, I was saying it felt like a casino with no drinks. And it was, you're in there, the lights are always on. The beeping never stops. You don't know if it's day or night. There's even a 24-hour clock on the wall. Just the disorientation that comes from being in that was really overwhelming. But also really seeing up close some of the brokenness in the system. I feel like my dad got beautiful care from the nurses. What amazing people. Those, the intensive care staff are unbelievable. But the rest of it was really fragmented. There was no point person. It even made it hard to prescribe. And also a couple of things that I learned, I felt really strongly that my immediate family be on board with my, using homeopathy to support my dad when we thought there was hope for healing, and then in his ultimate passing, and navigating those moments, that conversation. It was a lot. Yeah. And I didn't feel comfortable doing anything until I knew everyone else felt comfortable. And it was amazing to see and I had to do some real explaining as to what it was.
Well, that's so interesting, because you're right. I was an observer. I was kind of watching, from not too far away. But you're right. The skills are communication skills, not prescribing skills.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, there were
yeah.
two things, because it was, I prescribed on many a complex case and many an end-of-life case. That's why when the opportunity presented itself to develop a program in palliative and end-of-life care, I was really keen to do it, because it's something that I have done numerous times in my private practice and has been, I was going to say fulfilling, but that's personal, right? But it has been really super helpful for the people on the other side. You sort of we know what our remedies are capable of. And then, of course, when it came time to develop the course, all of the research that I did on the course, and of course, if you're interested in this, we've done other podcasts on it. I was shocked at how little information there was in our literature about that. Very few cases. All the searches that I did, all the research I did not yield a lot. So a lot of it was we had to develop the way to think about this, right? And certainly not in the old literature. There were not medical intensive care units where people were prescribing homeopathic remedies along with a multitude of drugs. In my dad's case, he was having what were paradoxical reactions to narcotics, on top of AFib, on top of sepsis he had appendicitis and had to have a surgery, all these things. And of course, because in a critical care unit, it's all about stabilization. You don't know what the underlying problem is. Therefore, any prescription that you make needs to be in accordance potentially with what you don't know. And so when you talk about the levels of complexity, right? So this is why talking about sort of where we came from with HHN and the PRC, now I'm like talking in code, but the Practitioner Review Committee for people who will be working in this, it's like the level of kind of skill, but also rationale, medical knowledge, and no hubris, right? No hubris, because you really do have to understand where you're working, which of course means that the more work we do to get ourselves into the system, that I cannot stress how important that feels right now. And I had a couple people reaching out to me with advice, which it's sort of irritating, because it was like, oh, just do the holy water on the hands and feet. And it's like, okay, yeah, we do that. We do a topical application of remedies, and that is a way to, do things. But my gosh, I was shocked at how freely people give advice without even knowing what the situation is. I was shocked by that. I feel like we can get out of our depth so quickly. And I'm just really conscious of that. I was really lucky because, when you have some of your closest friends who are homeopaths and in the medical profession, I don't know what I would have done without Molly Punzo and her husband, Marty. They were unbelievable. We were on the phone every single day. They talked to my dad's medical team, reviewed the charts with me, making sure that I needed to make sure that I could understand what was happening before I did anything, right? Like all of that became important. So there's, I'm like the cautionary tale lady when it comes to homeopathy, because I think...
Well, you just said something really important. Even those homeopaths that are grounded in the traditions of homeopathy, there was no ICU in 1810.
No.
And 1840.
Nope.
And then in 1910,
Yeah.
And it's only a recent phenomena. And so the whole idea of prescribing on symptoms in complex circumstances just takes some feet on the ground, actually.
And this is the thing that I was worried about. Let's say you give a remedy and that remedy results in a change. You've got a person who's hooked up to all sorts of IV, somebody's got a PICC line and they have 3 to 5 things at any given time that are influencing their, metabolic homeostasis. And you give a remedy that results in a big change, well, that medication isn't going to change until the lead physician puts in an order and it makes it to the nursing staff.
Yeah.
That could kill a person.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And
it's difficult. It's even more difficult with homeopathy because there's at least some basic research in the world of supplements and herbal preparations and other over-the-counter adverse reactions and remedy reactions because they're biochemical,
Exactly.
Now we have biochemical and biological change, but from an energetic substance, and that I think just creates or can create enough, smoke to realize that wheels might be spinning and let's get our feet, like I said, feet on the ground.
Yeah.
And at least make decisions and suggestions in keeping with what's going on medically,
Totally.
Yeah.
That is really, really important, right? Because let's say, for example, you're dealing with, one of the common things we see at end of life is terminal restlessness, right? Yeah. And that is, and terminal agitation. But seen in the context of a paradoxical response to a narcotic that is changing a person's heart rate, how does that remedy influence all those other factors? Do you see what I mean? Mm-hmm. That's why this sort of holding back and this judiciousness is really, really important. And I guess, there's this way in which I don't know how DIY medicine has become like we've got these remedies that can be so powerful and impactful, and yet, everything is OTC. Everybody is, prescribing to their heart's content. And it's a big deal. It's a really big deal. And, I suppose restraint, accountability, this is why the PRC is important. This is why this new certification, that we know that people are being educated in schools, that people are looking after to make sure that anyone who is dealing with the suffering population knows what they're doing. I don't know. I just think I've been in this game for a really long time, and I look at people that have, been around 15 minutes who are doing things where I'm like, for real? How do people have the confidence to, well, it's not confidence, it's that they've been given license because no one has said don't. Can we talk about happier things?
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all. What,
Because I feel like a school marm.
Yeah. Well, your school mum comes from, in this instance, from a highly emotive experience that you went through.
Yeah, but I'm always like this.
Yeah.
I mean, in all fairness, but but it's a learning experience, and I think that I want to always take these experiences and really, when we elevate these experiences and when we talk about them objectively, and when we can bring, like looking at the AIH conference coming up right at UConn in October. We've got these opportunities now to work with the medical community to expose, more and more folks who are in the system to the potentiality of what we do. Because what would be really different, like if I'm to reflect on, my hesitation in being able to prescribe for my dad in certain moments, which, by the way, I will say, I was able to prescribe well and support at many moments during that time, including at the very end, which was remarkable to see. When the decision to go on hospice was made, before the orders went in, we were able to really support that transition, which was gorgeous and amazing. All that being said, what would have been a dream would be that there would have been medical folks working with a homeopath so that changes that are made could be immediately implemented on the medical side. Like, you've got to do these things in tandem. You can't secretly do something and not be cognizant of what the delay in response might be for the medical team and all of that, right? So all that being said, what that means is that when we start to have these conversations and we can start to bring this medicine back into the place where it was designed to work, at the bedside, right? Whether it be the bedside of someone who's home with a stomach flu, or the bedside of someone who's in an inpatient, situation where there are people who are able to do both, or two people working together, right? If you've got a highly trained homeopath and their medical support team, knowing this is what's happening. And so the impetus then is on us to be having these conversations, right? To be getting as many medical folks dialed into the potentiality to bringing that back in.
Can I ask one more thing?
Yep.
Like, if you were in the jurisdiction of Florida.
Yep.
If a broad objective is to have homeopathy with a higher profile within corners of the medical system,
sure.
Like, what has your experience taught you about what was missing?
Oh, I mean,
is it a concierge? Is it a...
Yeah, there was no one person there was no point person for the care.
Yeah.
There was not one point person.
Yeah.
I mean, there was the head of the, there was the intensivist, right? But because my dad entered into the system after a surgery, he was with the trauma surgical intensivist team as opposed to medical intensivist. That was problematic, right? But I asked the nurses about that, and they said, they are sort of like, they're the anchor and everything is revolving around, but they're implementing decisions that are coming from multiple people, right?
Imagine the skill set of that person. I'm just thinking that imagine that we'd had a career in medicine. We're getting on, and we're going to retire in, say, 5 or 10 years. If we're in that system, wouldn't it be amazing to, as you're winding down, to be respected as the wise expert in the field of medicine?
Yeah.
To be the point person with a workload that can be managed, not stressed,
right?
But just be that person that has the understanding of that client in, say, the ICU or wherever you might be, and you've got the skill set to know what is and have the personal relationships with the surgeons and the swallow expert and the poop expert and the nursing team and all the rest of it.
Well, I think that were things I think that the possibility for that would have been there. I think that was just an aberration in his situation. But you would ask the question, where I thought you were going with it was, gleaning some, I don't know, just a different perspective from the kind of work that I've been doing, which is creating sort of these, ways that we can implement both education and pathways for care.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, how that was the excitement around the palliative and end-of-life care work.
Yeah.
Because if you kind of go upstream, right, if you like working with the death doula folks who are, the sort of final stage implementation of homeopathy, not necessarily for someone in an ICU situation is really different, but someone who is sort of going through the natural course of death, hospice and bedside providers, that's a natural intervention for us.
Yeah.
And in speaking to many of the folks, on the floor there are certain things where they know that they are at their edge of what they can provide, right? Terminal agitation being one of them.
Yeah.
And so I think that there are lots of inroads for us. I think, I would have said maternity, right? Because the ways in which midwives are using homeopathic remedies just beautiful, but because of the malpractice insurance around anything that is in pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, right? It makes it a little bit more difficult. Whereas end of life, because there isn't, it's a different structure there. I think we have the potential for more inroads, especially hospice, where where a person is clearly moving toward that end. Yeah, I think also in, this is one of the things with the comfort care program is there's, in providing for people who are having side effects to their treatment is also, that is somewhere where where homeopathy is already making inroads. In there, there are like these sort of subspecialties, like you've heard me talk about some of my clients who have had surgeries where the hospital was using homeopathy in their post-surgical, right? I had a client who got a hernia surgery some years ago who was at St. Luke's Hospital in New York City, I think it was. Anyway, they were using arnica post-surgically, but they were using a 6C. So they didn't have, so there was an implementation issue, but it's like they had broken through at least, right? So I think that there are a lot of inroads that we can make. And so it's like, if we're coming at it from multiple places where you're kind of raising up the caliber of homeopaths who can interface with medical professionals to provide care, maybe not in such intense situations as, as my dad was in, but in these other peripheral ways, it's like a groundswell until it tips over, Now, how homeopathic remedies make it into the hospital formularies might be, from a global perspective, I think is different, but I think we can start to affect change.
I think so too.
Yeah, I really do. I feel hopeful in that regard.
I feel hopeful because it's springtime.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
The bunny rabbits are out and the daffodils are up.
Groundhogs are waking up.
Oh,
I'm curious.
Get the cage out at some point.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm curious about is whether or not you were going to be able to deal with those. What do you call those white moths that come off of all the cruciferous vegetables?
Yeah, you want me to get onto that really quick.
I really do.
It's an aphid challenge. They're
not aphids.
They are aphids.
Are you sure?
Yeah, they're aphids. Yeah, and I'm going to do some.
Our agri-homeopathy has never really worked. We've tried all the recommendations. Oh, your isopathics have worked for the roses.
Oh, for sure.
But not the cruciferous vegetables.
I think it's because I don't care about the cruciferous vegetables so much.
You like your kale.
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I like
then.
the way you make it. But it's funny because I'm going to do a dive. I found where the eggs are in the ground, not on the back of the leaves.
Okay.
And so I'm going to be creating.
You're going to potentize those?
I'm going to potentize those
like
probably
it.
tomorrow.
Nice.
If I can get a window.
Uh-huh.
and then there's 1,000 things. My mission this growing season is to get 50 homeopathic remedies in the yard. And I think we're at 43 at the moment.
Oh, you're talking about plants that are medicinal plants.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry. When you said remedies, I thought you were talking about using 50 different remedies for treatment.
I meant 50 things in the ground.
Yeah.
Well, 49, because let's just add the bees, but they're not plants. And so, yeah, it's just such an exciting time. The buds are out. Look at the,
I know, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, the forsythia is out, and we all know what that means.
Yeah, good.
So, what else? We've got it's a change of season. It's our anniversary. And what else is there to report in?
I mean, we've got all these events coming up, and in the next, we're back on the podcast horse. We'll be back every week now recording like we usually do. And we'll be talking more about some of the things we're doing to support the Institute for the Advancement of Homeopathy. And if you are interested in spending some time with us, we've got a 3-day retreat happening June 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. And then, of course, our gala on the 5th, which is from 6 to 9 p.m. here in Philadelphia. It's going to be amazing. We are honoring the past, present, and future of homeopathy. And then we have an after party with a DJ here at our house for some serious dancing. So if you're interested, we'll be, I think it's going to be on all of our websites, and check us out on social media.
And there's going to be some information coming out about the actual lecture, the 3 days of lectures.
Yep, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too. And news about the 2 books that are going to accompany those, because there's some new and exciting proving information. There's some really good work that you and I are doing on posology.
Yep.
And other things as well.
Yeah, I'm going to be doing some work on pans and pandas, or going to be teaching some on the complexities around pans and pandas, which is something that, we as homeopaths who are dealing with chronic issues, and, those of us who are boots on the ground know this is sort of the next wave of the challenge that we're facing, and the families who are, helping their loved ones through this, autoimmune neuropsychiatric challenge is really a lot. We had an amazing class this week. Our full-time year 2 folks are just, God, what a group they are. And we had, it was interesting because we had a class on, do we have a couple more minutes to talk about this?
Sure.
Okay. I teach a class on eating disorders, which is, it's about how it's an autoimmune presentation. It's developed Sora. It's something really deep that needs to be dealt with, and we look at it through multiple lenses, and they were amazing, the year 2 full-timers. So this class, we look at, not just sort of anorexia and bulimia, but we look at, ARFID, avoidant and restricted food intake syndrome, which is or food intake disorder, which is basically what parents of kids who have pans and pandas, that's often one of the first things that they note. It happens also in folks on the spectrum. It can be an issue with low muscle tone. It can also be, fear of poisoning. I mean, there are all these ways that can impact a child's health. I mean, I've seen kids wind up with vitamin D deficiencies because they've moved away from so many foods, right, that they're really severely challenged. And then we get into, looking at pica and, consuming indigestibles, body dysmorphia. I mean, these are all these really complex ways that can result in, just ways that the way that we consume and eliminate can be challenged. And it has a neuropsychiatric component to it. It has a digestive component, but at the end of the day, it's got a microbiome component to it, right? So, it was a great way to really gauge how far the students have come, because the quality of conversation, the inputs that they brought to the lecture were just, I learned so much as well. And I love that because, in the DIY homeopathy world, it's like, what are the top 3 remedies for eating disorders? And it's like, oh boy, we've actually it's a really complex conversation to have. So I just have such gratitude for the ways in which people are coming to the conversation and showing up to really understand, to work towards a better understanding of homeopathy. So shout out to year 2 full time. You guys rock it.
You folks.
Anyway, I think
we gotta go. I gotta go teach ACEs.
ACEs, the Alumni Continuing Education Sessions. I'm jealous that it's on your docket today.
You want to do it?
I can't because I have a client in half an hour. Anyway, thanks everybody for listening, and and we'll be right back at you soon. Take it easy, folks.
Ciao.
See ya.
Bye.
Early enrollment is underway at the Academy of Homeopathy Education. AHE is the first and only program in the U.S. to offer a full-time pathway. Enroll for fall 2025 by April 30th and save up to $500 on tuition. Contact admissions today at ahe.online. The Academy of Homeopathy Education provides various pathways through our program depending on your desired outcome. Our acute care homeopathy programs cater to students and medical professionals who aspire to use homeopathy in an acute care setting. We also offer introductory, professional, clinical training, and postgraduate programs. You can learn more at ahe.online.